We all know that there are certain people and the lives they lead that we just don't get. You look at them, you're like, I don't get you. I don't understand you. I want to, but I don't. And then there are many more lives, I think, that we do get, we do understand. Just yesterday, I buried a gentleman in Calvary Cemetery, St. Bridget's Cemetery. Never met the guy in my life. He lived in Linton, Indiana, these past few years. But the family told me, this was a gentleman who served God and loved to. This was a guy who was a patriot. This was a guy who loved his family and took care of and provided for his wife, children, and loved being a grandfather. And those are things that we can all get, and it made sense based on the stories that I heard about this guy's life. It's a life that we can get, a life we can understand. But there are those that we just look at and we're like, I don't get you, I don't understand you. And John the Baptist, whose birth we celebrate today, John the Baptist is absolutely one of those guys. John the Baptist, if you didn't know anything of kind of what made him tick, or the one key to his life, if you didn't know anything about that, you would look at John the Baptist and you would say, that guy is insane. That guy is crazy. That guy is a nut. We don't get you, John. We don't understand you. And think about it. This guy didn't live in a house like you and I live in a house. This guy chose to live in the desert. Just chose to. This guy didn't eat food like you and I eat. This guy, by choice, decided to live on a steady diet of locusts and wild honey. This guy doesn't wear clothes as you and I wear clothes, or the kind of clothes. He decided to wear a camel's hair shirt, which is a little bit like wearing a fiberglass insulation shirt. Extremely itchy. And this guy preached. But not what he wanted to preach. He didn't preach anything of what he wanted to preach. He didn't preach an easy message. He preached the message of God. And he preached it with such intensity and so filled with truth and power that he lost his head for it. John the Baptist was beheaded for what he preached. Most people look at John the Baptist, or if you came across a John the Baptist, you would say, I don't get you, I don't understand you, you're insane, you're crazy, you're a nut. But we do. Because we understand the key to the life of John the Baptist. And the key to understanding this life isn't many keys, it's one key. And his name is Jesus Christ. The whole life of John the Baptist and what his life was about can only be understood if you and I know Jesus Christ. That's it. His whole mission was to prepare the way of the Lord. That's why John the Baptist was sent. His whole life was dedicated to pointing people to Christ by himself being enlivened by Christ. In fact, John the Baptist was the one who famously said, "He must increase, and I must decrease." Excuse me. He must increase, and I must decrease. And it makes sense because this is the guy who took that to the nth degree, who allowed himself to be so diminished, who allowed his ego to be so diminished, that there was nothing of himself, but only Christ and the light of Christ, whose way he was preparing. In essence, John today would be called a fanatic. He would be called a radical. Those would be the names that John the Baptist would get today. A fanatic and a radical. and his life would confound and confuse. This week, can we challenge ourselves to live our lives in a way where if someone looking on to our life and what we were doing this week, what we were not doing this week, the only reason it would make sense to them is if they knew that what we were doing or what we were not doing was because of Jesus Christ, that Jesus Christ was the key. Can we live our life this week in such a radical way that it confuses, that it confounds people looking on? And here's the thing about John the Baptist. His life wasn't just crazy. His life wasn't just insane. It didn't just confuse. It didn't just confound. It also inspired. For 2,000 years, his life has been inspiring disciples. And I apologize. Thank you, Ryan. For 2,000 years, his life has been inspiring and confounding people. But it's been inspiring. Pointing disciples to Jesus Christ. This is the power of his life. And we have that same power. If we too would but diminish ourselves and allow the light of Christ in radical ways. That yes, it might confuse some, yes, it might confound some, but maybe, just maybe, it will inspire some. It's not to say we have to go out and eat locusts and wear camel hair shirts. We don't. But can we live our vocations, whether it be to marriage and family or priesthood? Can we approach our jobs? Can we approach our social lives? Can we approach our free time? Can we dedicate our lives to such intense prayer and intentional prayer that people look at us and like, we don't get you, we don't understand you, but we want to. Tell us why you do what you do. Tell us why you don't do what you don't do. And as the Baptist did, we point to Christ. Behold the Lamb of God. He's the reason. This week, live your life in a way that confuses, that confounds, and inspires, and maybe wins souls for Christ.